What is a movement bias? I totally understand why that question is being asked, but it's your natural tendency in how an athlete is going to organize through movement. So this could show up as like your arms and legs being a certain distance away from your body being oriented a certain way, whether it be favoring like a squat pattern or a hinge pattern, standing more upright or being more bent over, being push or pull dominant, having mobility or stability imbalances, so asymmetries are all completely normal. Humans are incredible compensators, and we work around that as we organize through movements and our athletic abilities. I was under the assumption for the longest time that we always want to be symmetrical, we want to be perfect, biomechanically sound. And as you look deeper into some of the best athletes in the world, you're seeing them being pushed or pulled different directions. Force is being applied on them, torque in different planes of dimensions, and they're able to adapt and overcome these environments. So movement bias is your preference of movement, doing any type of movement, any type of activity. There's nothing that's good or bad that shapes athletes. It's just what it is. And the sooner that you figure out what you prefer, the better. Why this matters for baseball is you can relate it back to things like your swing path, your contact points, your consistency at the plate. We're always fighting for some type of consistency, some type of known, some type of comfort. So when we know our movement bias, there's no more guesswork, number one. Number two, you're no longer chasing something that may be against what your movement bias is. So if your movement bias is to say, have your hands away from your body and you're casting away, instead of starting your hands close to your body and then your body naturally forces them away because they like to be out there and you think it's a flaw that they're casting out, just start your hands away and let them work how they naturally want to work. A really common one I see in baseball players, it's super easy to identify, is just how far you turn to the left and to the right. That's something you can test at home. You just grab here and rotate as far as you can. You'll notice which side you can rotate further over. You can also hold like a PVC pipe or just put your hands on your shoulders. The further you can rotate to one side, that's your preference. So for me, I rotate better over my left leg. So when I throw right-handed, I'm going to be able to close myself off more, make athletic throws from that direction. Whereas when I'm hitting, I hit lefty, I'm going to have a hard time rotating over that front leg. So something like close stance would work out of my favor. Pulling the ball might be a little bit harder for me. I'm going to want to maybe open my stance up a little bit, open up that front foot when I do stride, and be able to kind of meet that ball a little bit deeper, if that all makes sense. For pitching, like this can go into your arm slot, your extension. Supination, pronation is a huge one that pitchers are always talking about. Basically, if you throw a cut fastball, a slider, breaking balls more naturally, and you have a hard time throwing a changeup, like that's an indication that you're a supinator. So like if you did a super slow-mo, and as I'm trying to throw, I'm a supinator, I go to throw and my hand is naturally falling off to the outside of the ball, whereas a pronator is going to have a good time throwing a changeup, maybe a sinker, where the breaking ball is going to become a little bit more difficult for them to do. Defense, it could be first step quickness, which leg you like to push off of. That's a movement bias. Sometimes it's called like your dominant leg, but it's basically like your bias, what you kind of revert back to. And we can also refer this back to the weight room, like what movements are going to be more beneficial for you, what movements you're going to get more out of, what movements are more difficult for you to feel and to work out of. Because you could do all the movement drills that you want, the mobility, the training, strength training, but in reality, like there's nothing wrong with the way they move. Like we kind of label it as good and bad, and it's more so just like a natural tendency that we kind of can play into. So instead of spending months on trying to create this different pattern, we just put you in like an open stance position and say, hey, just hit from here. It could affect your swing path, your contact points. And it was like a nonstop cycle of like, we need to get you into this, like these perfect positions. We want your bat to enter here. We want it to exit here. We want it to look like this. And then come to find out when my swing was looking like the sexiest it ever has, I was performing my worst. So I love to go deep into like mental performance and like how your mentality is kind of sculpting your entire game as opposed to having like picture perfect mechanics. If you're using training tools that can help you measure those things while you're lifting, hitting, throwing, it's going to help you monitor and be more aware of those things. So let's say your internal rotation with your hips bias, you're naturally more internally rotated. You train yourself to be externally rotated. Like every day you go into the gym and you're just training yourself to become externally rotated, you're going to get more mobility there. But your central nervous, like physically, your movement limitation is gone. But mentally, your central nervous system still wants to be in internal rotation because that's how you were naturally oriented and like to prefer to perform. That's how your body is biologically biased. There needs to be a form of feedback in the game. We should avoid thinking about our movement biases. So this would go into like the mental part I was kind of talking about, like internal and external thinking. If we're thinking internally in the game and we're focusing on what's happening inside of our body, then we're not focusing on the external and the outcome of what we're actually trying to
Yeah,
accomplish.
yeah.
So we're taking like energy away from accomplishing a task that's already so hard. We're making it more difficult for ourselves. Hitters naturally do that, I think, and in practices as well. Like if we're in a BP setting and we're thinking about like where my hands are, where I'm striding in the middle of batting practice, it's because it's too easy. And then we kind of carry that over into the games because we're bored and
Yeah.
maybe it's a habit that we think that we need to do. I personally think that the term like overthinking or like labeling somebody as an overthinker is wrong to do. It's hard to shut your brain off but
Yeah.
we can change our thought process. So the thought process should be more external and less internal. If we
Yep.
want to think internal, there needs to be an outcome in mind. So I'm gonna keep my hands inside so I can do that. The goal is to hit the ball hard in the air. Hits are
Yeah.
so far out of our control, like we can't chase hits per se, but we can compete against the guy on the mound. And
Yeah.
your goal is to hit a line drive to some part of the field. More often than not, somebody's gonna say something very close to that.